I'm Babir Malik. I'm Pharmacist Support Charity Ambassador, and my main role is being the Pre-reg and summer student lead for Weldricks Pharmacy, and I'm also the Teacher Practitioner for Weldricks at the University of Bradford. So I'm delighted to have been invited along to host today's Act Now Wellbeing Chat. As many of you know, on the 20th of May, Pharmacist Support launched a wellbeing focus campaign called Act Now, which aims to raise awareness of the importance of well-being and encouraging positive action. So I'm delighted to be joined by three people here today. We've got Andrew, who's the PPSA Secretary General and current pre-reg for another week and soon to be a brand new provisionally registered pharmacist. We've got Vivien from Robert Gordon University, who is just about to start final year in October time. And we've got Danae, who is currently in Greece, just finished the first year at Nottingham University. So welcome all. So I just want to start with Andrew, if I may. Perhaps you could start by telling us a little bit about the survey that you conducted in partnership with Pharmacist Support back in May and what the responses have revealed, please.
Yep, so hi everyone, I'm Andrew. So I guess when I'm talking about this, I'm kind of representing the BPSA, which hopefully you're all aware of, but is the British Pharmaceutical Students Association. The big thing that we've done recently is the survey, and we kind of launched that in the middle of the lockdown, after people had been affected at their universities in their pre-reg studies, and basically wanted to see what was going on, if there was any specific concerns, what we could do to help. And we did get a number of responses. We ended up with 650 responses, which is really a good number of responses, which should give us a good indication of what's going on. There was a good spread between location, year of study, pre-regs. And I guess the key points that we got were probably not surprising, in that a lot of people are very worried at the moment. So 79% of people said they were experiencing low motivation and energy. 66% were feeling anxious generally. About 44% were struggling to concentrate on their studies off the back of coronavirus. So it's obviously having a huge impact on our members. And also worryingly, 85% said they were doing nothing to look after their mental health. So if so many people are experiencing problems, as you know, it's totally understandable. I think we all are. The fact that only 15% of those people are actually doing anything is a problem. And so off the back of the feedback that was given, Pharmacist Support and ourselves have been looking at ways to support students with the feedback they've been given. So things like the Wardley Wellbeing Hub now has services that are tailored to the feedback we got. And we as an association as well are going to work on some things going forward around areas that were mentioned.
So what have you struggled with the most in the last few months?
I think the points that Andrew brought up were really valid. Like I did kind of relate to quite a lot of them. I guess for myself, I've mainly struggled with falling asleep like more the past few months. So I know that before lockdown, I was in a kind of routine and I would go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time. And now it's been completely flipped and I don't really have like a routine, or I don't have like a sleeping schedule. And I did try and sort it. Like I did buy like a sleeping mask and like some sleeping sprays and creams and all that to try and like combat this, but I kind of stopped because I was worried that it would that I wouldn't be able to sleep without them. Like I would get into the habit of using them and not be able to sleep normally. And I guess that I have kind of struggled with like my motivation, my energy levels quite a bit as well. I'm like used to being full on 100% of the time during like term time. And because there wasn't that kind of gap between, you know, finishing your studies and being in the house or going or moving back home for your summer holidays and then moving on, it just felt like it felt like I hadn't switched off yet. Like I was still kind of in university mode, even though we're well into our summer holidays now, halfway through. And I guess that like I've not really kind of accessed any support services myself, just because I kind of feel that I kind of feel that my problems aren't like bad enough like to kind of like seek like support. Like I feel like, oh, like I'd be overreacting if I went to go and, ask for advice or like, support services, because I feel that, the majority of the people would probably be like feeling the same as me or maybe even worse. So yeah, that, I guess, yeah, that's what.
Are you still in touch with your colleagues from the university? Have you got your like separate WhatsApp groups and so forth?
Yeah, with my friends and like my university year, we do have like group chats and Facebook chats that we keep in contact with. I guess like we have been kind of like sending each other kind of advice for applying for our pre-reg and other bits and bobs that we found. So we do keep in contact, but no one really talks about like mental health. And
No. Which it's not an easy thing to talk about, so that's understandable. Danae, have you got any thoughts? Or have you been getting on?
So I've been feeling the exact way, like Vivien said before. I was struggling focusing and trying to reach my goals. It seemed a lot more difficult than it was when I was in the university and going to lectures and attending practicals. But I guess what I've learned from all of this is that no matter how difficult something seems, you should always find ways to adapt and get the most out of any situation. Yeah, that's really important that I learned.
Good. Being resilient is important if you can. Have you, because you're actually in Greece right now, aren't you?
Yes.
So, and you've been in Greece, I imagine, since the start of the lockdown. So have you had any technological issues with logging onto campus or any training sessions, or have you been okay with that?
Fortunately, I didn't have any issues with this, but I'm sure that a lot of people may have to pass through these issues. One problem that I had is that I wanted to work during summer in the UK, so I had to go back to my home country, so I didn't have the chance to do it. But I'm sure that a lot of people have a lot more problems, such as no internet connection or issues with their computer.
Have either you and Vivien, have you got any siblings in the house, maybe that have wanted to use your computer or anything like that?
Yes, I have a lot of siblings, so sometimes it was overcrowded in here, and I wanted more of my place that I couldn't get. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to Andrew again. So how have you found being a pre-reg? I mean, I'm presuming study time was cancelled for a few months, study days. You've been working, have you been wearing PPE in the wards?
Yeah, the PPE, the mask's definitely not fun. We'll have to get used to that. It's a big thing for new pre-regs, is get used to wearing a mask. But in terms of kind of pre-reg life, I actually feel kind of lucky. I think hospital and community, there's probably been a huge difference in those two environments on the back of this. And we did face some disruption at our hospital, so our study days were cancelled. We're lucky that we have some in-house, but we didn't get to kind of make those connections with the people in the area. We didn't have the specialist talks, although actually our training sessions in-house have been very good anyway, so I do feel lucky there. Yeah, we ended up shifting sites, so we were based at kind of the big busy site until coronavirus, and because of that, a lot of the pharmacy staff was moved away to kind of the more community-based hospitals. So learning kind of a whole new environment, new dispensaries, new staff, new protocols of working. So as we were saying, actually, the adaptability, actually going there and learning a new place, I found really useful. I think it tested me, but I think off the back of it, I'm probably now a more rounded pharmacist. I've got more of an experience, so it's been nice to get some positives out of that. as I said, I think community will be totally different. I won't dwell on it because I obviously don't have that experience, but from what I know and the friends that I've had, I think they're doing a hell of a lot of work, and not always getting credit, and sometimes being subject to kind of abuse and more pressure. So actually, I do think they all deserve a massive pat on the back, especially the pre-reggers, for trying to learn in that environment. And yeah, I guess the whole family and friends argument as well. I've not been able to see like my grandma in weeks. She's obviously an at-risk person, probably. So it is a worry, and looking after your family and friends, and the worry of catching it in hospital and then taking it back to your family, and what was to happen to one of those, which is another thing that came up in the survey actually. And actually just not being able to let off some steam, go to the park, see your friends is really quite a big thing in a pressured year like your pre-reg.
And how do you feel about not knowing when the exam is?
Yeah, it's not ideal. I think I'm probably kind of a person that tends to get on with things. So for me, it is a case of I totally understand why they made the decision that they did. I don't think we really had an option. But we are at a point where people want to start to revise. As much as we're going to be provisionally registered pharmacists, we're going to be pharmacists. It's a full-time job. You're not going to join as a band 6 and then not have the responsibility and the pressure. All of your first year stuff will still be there. That they're not knowing that who to go to, making decisions. It's scary. And on top of that, then knowing that you've got to go home and revise for an exam, it's going to be hard. So it would be nice to be able to put some plans in place, start to make those revision timetables. So yeah, I'm hoping we'll find out sooner rather than later. It looks like, well, it's going to be an online exam. Quite how that's going to work, don't know. So that's also a worry. I'm pleased that there's a mock in place, so we can see how it's going to be first. But yeah, a lot of uncertainty, but kind of just trying to plod on and look for the positives, really.
So I'm hoping, well, I'm not hoping, I'm hoping we'll find out soon. But it's probably going to be better if it's after Christmas and in January, because that's always a busy time, especially with the winter pressures. So either before, after, but let us know soon. But I'm sure they are at the moment trying to work out which online platform to use and how best to make it work as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see. There's never going to be a good time. There's always going to be something. But I think they'll get it sorted sooner rather than later. And I hope that the next year of pre-regs aren't impacted so much, and can just do everything as normal.
Good point you made about wearing the mask. How did you find communication? So, because you spent 4 years learning about the best ways to communicate and non-verbal communication, and now we just have our eyebrows. That's the only way that we can communicate with patients and doctors. And how have you found that?
Yeah, it's hard. I keep doing the when you're walking down the corridor and you smile at someone, and then you realise I'm wearing a mask, so people just think I'm staring at them now. But yeah, it's been different. It is a challenge with some patients actually. I work with quite a lot of elderly patients, and they might struggle with their hearing, or some people lip read. So it is hard. I think you do adapt to it. And it's just different. I can't really explain it. You just adapt. You just get used to it. It's certainly not something that you can prepare for. So yeah, you just learn. You use your body language. I think that's a pre-reg standard as well. So get that in. Yeah, just learn.
Yeah, so I don't work in hospital, but I have been working in community outbreak. So at some points you do have to step back, and sometimes you do have to put on your mask. Some people do lip read, so if you talk louder, it's not really going to help with the mask. So I'm probably standing up all day. People need to get used to that. It's probably one of the hardest things I remember when I was a pre-reg, from being sat down at university or at home and then having to stand up for 9 hours a day.
Yeah, buy good shoes. That's a good tip.
Comfortable shoes, not amazing fancy shoes. Comfortable shoes is the way forward.
it's all about the art support.
So Vivien and Danae, do you have any useful advice or guidance about pharmacy students that might be struggling with any issues at the moment? Let's start off with Danae.
So what I would say is to not focus on what they're going through right now, but focus on their goal and trying to reach it. And also to think that everyone is going through the same phase and have to get through it and try to see it confidently. But also, I think the most important is to speak about it, speak about what makes them feel unsafe. And by speaking about it, they will feel better and get through it more easily.
Okay, thank you. Vivien?
Yeah, I agree with Danny. I think that it's important to remember that everyone's experience of this lockdown and this quarantine is going to be different. Like for example, that I'm shielding myself, and there'll be like quite a lot of people in the same kind of like boat as me, shielding and not being able to kind of leave the house and go out or go to work as usual. People might have like caring duties as well, being back at home a bit more, or like having a health condition, or even just going to work as well. So I think it's important that you don't compare yourself and your experience to everyone else, and to find like something that suits you in your own routine. So like for the past couple of months that I've been shielding, that I've just been trying to find different activities to do. So like I've done some like sign language courses, like reading, watching TV, and or like learning different languages, just kind of like dipping in out of different things to try and find something that would suit me. And I guess like through like all of that trialing, I've been consistent in cooking every day, doing some exercise every day, just because I know that it's good for myself, and that even if I'm feeling completely unmotivated and I've got no energy at all, like I'll find different times of the day to do it, so that I know that I've like made an agreement with my family that I have to cook dinner. So like it's kind of forced me to think of what to cook for everyone or what we're having for dinner. So like I can't really get out of it because I'll need to do it. And I know that if I don't do like say my exercise before dinner, I know that it won't happen because I won't do it after dinner. So it kind of just forced me to kind of get into like a mini routine between like dinner and doing exercise. So I guess like finding something that you can be like one or two things that you kind of enjoy doing and you can be consistent in doing, even if it's just one thing that you can do every day, and get that into your routine. Doesn't even have to be at the same time every day. And I guess if you're like noticing yourself to be kind of tired or like unmotivated, and or you're feeling like all of these different emotions and you don't know how to kind of cope with them or look at them, you could maybe keep like a journal, possibly like a diary, and you can maybe like establish a pattern. So like what you did that day, when did you sleep, or what kind of things did you eat, and see if that makes a difference at all. But yeah, I think it's just that this is all completely normal. Like all of these different emotions that everyone's feeling is completely normal, and everyone will be feeling like everyone will be feeling different, and it's just important to just not compare yourself to other people.
So you mentioned your lecturers. Have you had more contact with your lecturers, you think, or have they been emailing you more or contacting you more, maybe your personal tutor?
So everyone was trying to keep in touch and to make us feel like we're not left out. And even though we weren't doing practicals, and they were trying to send us important informations and other sources where we can get experience. Or for example, they were telling us to get involved with online internships, as we cannot do the face-to-face internships.
Has anyone got any final thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I've got a few bits I was just going to say. in terms of kind of new pre-regs, just for any tips. They're not so much around like mental health and well-being, but just in general, I think I would say try not to stress too much, any more than usual. So obviously we've had a little while under these conditions now, and I've noticed in the past 3 or 4 months of my pre-reg that things are starting to not get back to normal, but people are getting used to the new circumstances and putting things in place. So we had a conference, like a webinar with loads of speakers and stuff in the north actually, which was really good. So I would hope for next year's pre-regs that kind of their training sessions and stuff that we had cancelled, there'll probably be ways and means to get those on again, which is good. And just all the usual stuff. Don't expect the world at first. When you start, you know, it does feel like you've kind of been pushed off a diving board into the deep end. And it really does, like, I'm not just saying that. And people progress at different rates. There's pre-regs I've worked with, there's some that day one have come in, been excellent. I was probably one of the latest ones to start feeling confident. And at the end, you do just kind of do a big arc, and you do get there in the end. But talk about how you're feeling, talk about your worries, your concerns. I know, Viv, you mentioned kind of this doesn't feel bad enough to get help yet, and I think I get that. I kind of agree with that. I've felt that in the past, but it shouldn't come into it. If you need help, if you're not 100% and there's something you can do to fix it, you should go and fix it. Otherwise, it'll get worse. So yeah, I think that's what I would say to the new pre-regs.
Okay, no, thank you. That's very useful. You can always make sure that you do talk to your tutor as well, and not just your tutor. You may have a mentor as well you can talk to, and each other. You've got your friends from university who will be doing pre-regs in different places, and you'll meet new pre-regs as well, maybe in the same company or maybe in some training events. So you are absolutely not alone. You've got your family, you've got your friends. BPSA, please get involved. I know they have 2 graduate events every year. Well, COVID permitting, maybe some online this year, I don't know, but they are. And pharmacist support, you got any ideas to raise money or bake? I can't bake, I can't run. So I jumped out of a plane a couple of years ago. That's what I did, but they're always looking for crazy ways, as long as it involves something green, to help raise money for. So I'd like to thank Andrew, Vivien, and Danae for joining us today. And I hope you are staying safe and taking care of yourselves. We need to look after ourselves before we look after other people, including patients. So thank you for your time, guys. Thank you.